The neon sign buzzed faintly above Maple and Oak Grill, its glow distorted through the damp Ohio twilight. The red letters flickered, barely visible against the darkening sky, casting an uneven hue across the aging strip mall. On the surface, it looked like any other family joint, booths worn from years of elbows and soda spills, a jukebox that hadn't worked in months, and a kitchen where time moved faster than air. But that night, something beneath the sticky tile floor was about to shift. Marcus Vance didn't need a name tag to know his role. He was dressed like the rest of them, plain black tee with the faded restaurant logo, dark jeans, sneakers stained from long shifts, but what no one in the building knew was that Marcus wasn't a busser. He was the owner. CEO of the parent company behind the Maple and Oak franchise chain. 42 years old, sharp-eyed, black, and quiet by design. He'd built his empire brick by brick. But lately, rumors from this specific location hadn't sat right. High turnover. Complaints from miners. Late paychecks. Instead of calling a meeting, Marcus decided to do what few CEOs would ever consider. He went undercover. He stepped through the back door like a man desperate for hours, ignored by most, side-eyed by a few. The kitchen was chaos, grills smoking, orders shouted over clatter, two cooks arguing over prep, and Craig, the manager, missing in action as usual. Marcus had only been employed at this store for 3 days, but it was enough to confirm what he suspected: this place was rotting from the inside. And the stench started at the top. At 7:15 p.m., a teenage waiter darted past, a blur of motion and anxiety. His name tag read Eli. 16, scrawny, with wide eyes and arms too thin for the weight he carried, both literally and emotionally. Marcus had watched him for the past hour, running food, bussing his own tables, taking orders from impatient customers, and getting no help from anyone. His shift started at 3 p.m., and now it was nearing 10. No break. No food. No water. Just sweat, fear, and Craig breathing down his neck. "Kid's working hard," Marcus said casually to the dish pit girl. "He always does," she muttered without looking up. "Don't know why. Craig's just gonna break him like he did the others." That line struck deeper than it should have. The others. How many kids had Craig run out? How many rules had he broken in plain sight? Marcus had already seen one confrontation in the freezer, Craig cornering a nervous teen, barking threats and insults like it was a normal part of training. That boy quit the same night. The pattern was crystal clear. So Marcus followed Eli, watched how the boy moved, how he absorbed the weight of responsibility no 16-year-old should carry. And when Eli confessed that Craig threatened to fire him if he left before 9 p.m., despite school policies, Marcus knew the line had been crossed. Not just morally. Legally. The next afternoon, the restaurant smelled like it always did, lemon cleaner trying to cover fryer grease and failure. Marcus arrived early, slipping in through the back. This time, he didn't clock in. He just watched. Craig stumbled in late again, sunglasses on indoors, venti iced coffee in hand, already barking questions about who hadn't shown up. Angie, one of the only dependable hostesses, had called out sick. "Her kid has the flu," one of the servers offered. Craig's response: "Tell her if she misses again, she's done." No compassion. No leadership. Just threats and iced coffee. By 2:30, Eli still wasn't there. Marcus stepped out back and spotted a figure sprinting across the street, dodging traffic, hoodie clinging to his back from sweat. Eli. The boy shoved through the back door, breathless. "You're late," Craig snapped. "I had a lecture, I ran straight here," Eli panted. Craig didn't even blink. "You want this job? Cut the excuses." Marcus watched the entire thing unfold in silence, anger rising under his skin like boiling tar. He offered to cover while Eli changed. Craig didn't care. "Fine. Make yourself useful," he muttered. In the grimy break room, Marcus handed Eli a protein bar. "You eat today?" The boy shook his head. "Eat," Marcus said, no softness in his tone. "Then breathe." Back on the floor, the dinner rush came hard and fast. Eli was already stumbling from fatigue, trying to take care of a table that complained 3 times about undercooked food. Craig swooped in, blaming the customers for not ordering clearly. Then he reprimanded Eli for not upselling drinks, after denying the kid a break or support. At one point, a customer finally spoke up. "Why is that boy doing everything?" she asked. "Where's your manager?" Marcus stepped forward. "He's covering for people Craig won't hire," he said calmly. "I'll take care of it." Craig stormed in. "No, you won't. You're a busser, remember? You don't make decisions." And that was the moment. Marcus turned. Met Craig's eyes. "You sure about that?" The room froze. "I'm the owner," Marcus said, his voice even. "And you're fired. Effective immediately." Craig's smirk collapsed. His mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. Marcus turned to the customer. "Your meal is on the house. We'll do better next time." No one clapped. No one moved. They didn't need to. The balance of power had just shifted, and every single person in that room felt it in their bones. The air inside Maple and Oak Grill felt different the morning after. Not better. Not yet. But different. Marcus stood outside in jeans and a navy button-up, no uniform today, no hidden identity, just himself. He took a long breath before unlocking the front door. The restaurant greeted him the same way it always had, with the scent of stale fryer oil and something heavier lingering beneath it. But the tension that used to fill the walls now felt replaced with uncertainty. A new kind of silence. Carmen, the assistant manager, was already at the host stand. Her shoulders were stiff, arms crossed over her chest as if bracing for a storm. She was a sharp woman, early 30s, efficient, organized, and careful. She hadn't said much during the chaos last night, but Marcus had watched her enough to know, she cared. Maybe too much. "They're nervous," she said without preamble. "The staff. They think more firings are coming." Marcus met her eyes. "They're not. Craig was the problem. Not the team." Carmen's posture didn't change, but something in her eyes softened. "A little. We're running light today," she said after a pause. Server called out. "Still no dishwasher. I'll be on the floor if you need me." "I'll help cover," Marcus said. "We get through today, then we fix what's broken. Together." In the break room, Eli sat hunched over a plastic crate, lacing up his worn sneakers. His backpack slumped beside him like a weight he hadn't shaken off yet. When Marcus stepped in, the boy didn't say anything at first. Just looked up, unsure if he was in trouble. "You didn't have to come today," Marcus said gently. Eli shrugged. "Didn't know if I was allowed." "You earned your place here," Marcus replied. "That doesn't change because someone else lost theirs." Eli's hands paused on his laces. "Are the rules different now?" "They will be," Marcus promised. "But it'll take work." The kid gave a cautious nod, then pulled his apron off the wall and stood. "Then let's work." By lunchtime, the staff had found a rough rhythm. It wasn't smooth, but it was functional. Carmen rotated between tables and the host stand. Marcus cleared booths. Eli moved slower than usual, but his focus had sharpened. The fear that once clouded his eyes had started to lift. Still, cracks were everywhere. The line cook, Dylan, had been shoved onto Expo despite never being trained for it. The printer kept skipping tickets. Cleaning supplies were running low. The hostess, barely old enough to drive, looked like she was about to pass out from stress. Near dry storage, Marcus overheard 2 line cooks whispering. If he really owns the place, why is he back here sweating with us? One asked. Beats me, the other replied. Maybe he's trying to scare us. Nope, said the first one, chuckling. He helped me restock the freezer this morning. Who does that? Marcus smiled faintly as he passed, saying nothing. Let them wonder. Let them see. Change didn't come from titles. It came from showing up. At 4, a delivery truck pulled into the lot. Carmen was slammed, so Marcus signed for it himself. The driver, a big guy with sunburned arms and a weather-worn clipboard, eyed him curiously. You the new guy? He asked. Sort of, Marcus replied, scribbling his name. Usually Craig's back here barking orders, the driver said. Guess that changed. The man raised an eyebrow, but didn't press. Inside, Eli was crouched beside table 4, comforting a teary-eyed girl who had dropped her bowl of ice cream. Her parents looked flustered, apologetic. Marcus watched quietly as Eli returned with a fresh bowl, on the house, and set it in front of the girl with a small smile. Marcus met him near the drink station. That was kind. You handled it well. Eli shrugged. She didn't drop it. Her dad did. But she blamed herself. Marcus nodded. You did right. We'll make sure the system supports your instincts from now on. Eli blinked, as if unsure how to respond to being supported for once. He just nodded and walked away. By 5 o'clock, the dinner crowd at Maple and Oak Grill began its slow creep toward chaos. The booths filled, families shuffled in with restless toddlers, and a group of construction workers took up half the bar. The kitchen fell behind fast. Orders printed half legible. Drinks backed up. And every server on the floor was hustling like it was their first and last day. Eli moved like a ghost between tables, handling more than any one person should. Marcus watched from the edge, near the server's station. He was helping bus when needed, running food when the tray line backed up. But most of all, he was watching. This wasn't just about fixing one bad manager anymore. This was about culture, rotted from neglect. And it was everywhere. Behind the kitchen pass, Dylan wiped sweat from his brow as he tried to organize plated meals. He was doing double duty, cooking and trying to manage Expo. I've never run this before, he confessed, his voice strained when Marcus approached. Call out the tickets. I'll plate, Marcus instructed. We'll get through this together. They moved fast. Orders flew, garnishes added, corrections fixed on the spot. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Just enough to keep the wheels from coming off. By 6:15, a new complication rolled in, uninvited. A small group of corporate team members arrived, dressed business casual, unannounced, and clearly observing. They claimed they were just here for dinner, but Marcus knew better. Word of Craig's firing had traveled fast. They took a booth near the window. Quiet. Observant. Not disruptive, but very clearly there to see. Marcus didn't approach. He let the staff do what they'd been doing all along, survive under pressure. But this time, they weren't doing it alone. Lane, the young server with shaky hands, navigated the floor better than she had all week. Her tray was steady now, her steps more confident. Marcus had noticed her helping the new host earlier, walking her through table assignments without being asked. Something Craig would have scolded her for. Marcus quietly made a note of it. At the same time, Carmen calmly handled a complaint from a family who'd waited too long for food. She listened, didn't argue, and comped one of the kids' meals without blinking. No drama. Just good management. And Eli, tired, still learning, was doing something even more remarkable. He was teaching. A new hire shadowed him that night. A boy named Sean, a college freshman with wide eyes and nervous energy. Eli coached him through resetting booths, how to stack trays properly, how to pre-bus without hovering. Marcus caught a moment at the server station. Sean accidentally spilled a cup of water, soaking an order pad. He flinched, expecting to be yelled at. Instead, Eli just handed him a towel. No big deal. Just clean it up and breathe. That one sentence hit Marcus harder than expected. That was it. That was the culture they needed. Later that night, after the corporate visitors quietly paid and slipped out, Marcus found himself in the back office. The clutter Craig left behind still sat like a bad smell: empty Red Bulls, ripped schedules, scrawled warnings written in red marker on employee notes. But that wasn't what drew his focus. It was the system. The broken systems behind it all. Timecards logged manually. No waivers for minors. No training documentation. No real chain of accountability. It wasn't just Craig. This location had been left behind. And that was his failure. By the end of the shift, the team dragged through cleanup, but the vibe was different. Carmen and Lane closed the register together without snapping at each other. Dylan stayed behind to help restock, even though his shift ended an hour ago. The dishwasher, who looked one bad night away from quitting earlier in the week, was laughing with Sean about someone mishearing a Coke order as goat. It wasn't perfect. But it was human. Marcus called Eli over before he clocked out. They sat in booth 3, now empty, the overhead lights dimmed to late-night levels. "You still running from class to here every day?" Marcus asked. Eli nodded. "Most days." "Still working without breaks?" Eli hesitated, then shrugged. "Depends." Marcus leaned forward, his voice quiet but firm. "That ends now. You'll get your breaks. But I want to offer something more." Eli blinked. "Like what?" "Operations training," Marcus said. "Company paid. Flexible hours. Mentorship. We'll build a path for you, if you want it." Eli looked down at his hands. "Why me?" "Because you've already been leading here. You just didn't know it." A long pause. Then a quiet, "Okay. I'll try." Marcus nodded. "That's all I ask." They stood together, not as boss and employee, but as two people finally pushing the same direction. The restaurant was still flawed. Still scarred. But the roots of something better were finally breaking through the surface. The following morning, sunlight streamed through the smeared front windows of Maple and Oak Grill, casting long shadows over upturned chairs and clean tabletops. It was calm, for now. But Marcus knew the calm never lasted long in this business. He walked in just after 7 a.m., clipboard under his arm, a hot coffee in hand, and a plan forming in his head. Today wasn't about firefighting. Today was about rebuilding. Carmen met him near the bar, flipping through the new policy binder he'd handed out the night before. Her eyes were still skeptical, but less guarded now. The exhaustion hadn't vanished from her face, but it was no longer the hopeless kind. It was the kind you carried when you believed something might actually get better. "I went through it last night," she said, gesturing to the binder. "Some of it's ambitious." "It has to be," Marcus replied. "If we're going to change this place, and not just this location, but the whole company, then we can't just adjust the surface. We have to gut the mold." Carmen nodded slowly. "You'll have pushback. I expect it. That's why I brought in help." Right on cue, Tanya Holmes stepped through the door. Tall, poised, and wearing a charcoal suit that made her look like she ran the SEC, Tanya was the company's head of HR and Marcus's trusted fixer. She didn't do small talk. She did results. "Full audit starts here," she said crisply, setting her laptop bag on the bar. "Payroll, scheduling, labor compliance, complaint records, all of it." Marcus led her into the office. It still reeked of Craig's bad cologne and arrogance. Tanya opened her laptop and immediately flagged the handwritten timecards. "Easily manipulated," she said. No digital backups. No time clock enforcement. You know what this looks like. Intentional, Marcus answered. She nodded grimly. I'm pulling the last 6 months. If there's wage theft, we report it. She tapped a few keys, then froze. There's more. Marcus stepped closer. Tanya turned the screen. For minors scheduled past legal hours. Some closing doubles. No waivers. No parental consent forms. Eli's name sat at the top of that list, circled in bold red. Marcus didn't speak right away. His fists clenched at his sides. Document everything, he said finally. If this happened here, it happened at other stores. Tanya nodded. I'll notify legal. State Labor Board too. By noon, customers began filtering in. The team moved with cautious steadiness. Lane took orders without fumbling. Dylan stayed focused. Carmen managed the host stand like a pro. And Eli, he wasn't just surviving anymore. He was adjusting. Marcus watched from the kitchen pass as Eli handled a tough table with calm grace. An allergy question, a picky child, a missing side dish, he addressed it all without running to the back, without panicking. Marcus saw the difference. It wasn't just about his training binder. It was about being seen, being believed in. When Eli clocked out for his break, he slid into a booth across from Marcus again, soda in hand. You wanted to talk? Eli asked. Marcus nodded. You've got a gift. Not just for the job, but for how you treat people. That's not something you can train. Eli shifted, unsure what to say. You want to keep learning? Marcus asked. Because this won't be easy. You'll be doing real operations work. Schedules. Inventory. Budgeting. Not just shadowing me. I want to, Eli said. But. I don't want to mess it up. Marcus shook his head. Messing up is part of it. We just don't do it alone. Eli nodded slowly. Then I'm in. Just then, Carmen approached with a notepad in hand. Table 12 wants to speak to a manager. The good kind of speak. Marcus raised an eyebrow. An elderly man and his wife sat at the corner booth, finishing their meal. As Marcus walked over, the man stood with effort, offering a small smile. I just wanted to say, the man said, his voice raspy, we've been coming here for years. The last few months. Felt like the whole place was falling apart. Marcus didn't respond yet. But tonight, the man continued. I don't know what's changed, but it feels like someone finally gives a damn again. Marcus thanked him, shook his hand, and turned back toward the kitchen, heart steady. One customer. One moment. But it was enough. Later that evening, Tanya wrapped up her first round of staff interviews. She was meticulous, emotionless, but thorough. What she found wasn't surprising, but it was sickening. Craig hadn't just pushed minors past legal limits. He'd been retaliating against employees who spoke up. Harassment complaints ignored. Schedules weaponized. Tips manipulated. And worse, he'd routinely scheduled young women to close a loan after they refused his advances. Marcus felt something twist inside him. Rage, yes. But guilt too. Because even though he hadn't known, this happened on his watch. We're filing a formal complaint, Tanya said. I'll handle it. But I need your sign-off to refer it directly to the labor board. Do it, Marcus replied without hesitation. And don't stop at him. Pull the data for every store in the region. We find the next Craig before he finds another kid to exploit. Tanya's expression didn't change, but her eyes softened slightly. You're doing the right thing. No, Marcus said. I'm just finally doing my job. The night closed out quieter than expected. Lane handled her section with ease. Dylan trained the new line cook without shouting. Carmen finished closing inventory early. And Eli? Eli stayed late, not because he was asked to, but because he wanted to. He lingered by the drink station, binder tucked under one arm, scanning his next training module. Marcus didn't say a word as he passed. But inside, he knew, this wasn't just a turnaround. It was a resurrection. By the following Friday, the maple and oak grill pulsed with something unfamiliar: stability. The cracked tile floors still squeaked, and the drink station still coughed like an old smoker every fifth refill, but the staff moved with a confidence Marcus hadn't seen since he stepped in Undercover. He stood quietly near the server station as the dinner rush began, clipboard in hand, but this time he wasn't monitoring for disaster. He was watching growth. Lane, once skittish and dropping trays, now carried a full six-top like a pro. She smiled more now, not out of fear or politeness, but because she'd stopped bracing for criticism after every table. She was mentoring the new food runner, Sean, walking him through timing, routes, even how to talk to impatient parents with screaming kids. Dylan, back where he belonged on the line, prepped Station 3 like a machine. His plating was clean, consistent. When the kitchen printer skipped a ticket, he didn't panic. He just calmly walked it back and confirmed the order with Carmen. Carmen, now fully running the front of house, had stepped into a rhythm that even Marcus couldn't ignore. She didn't hover. She didn't bark. She anticipated. Solved problems before they became chaos. The other servers leaned on her, trusted her. As for Eli, he arrived just before 6, new shoes, his name tag replaced with one that simply read, Trainee Supervisor. His apron was pressed, binder tucked under one arm, and confidence in his step. The hesitation that once clung to him had given way to purpose. He crossed the floor with steady eyes, greeted each table, corrected a missed side with grace, and, at one point, handled a difficult customer who'd previously demanded Craig by name. "No," Eli said calmly. "Craig's no longer with us. But I'll do everything I can to make this right." The woman blinked, startled by the professionalism in the young man's voice. She didn't ask for a manager again. Marcus caught the exchange from across the dining room and smiled inwardly. That's leadership, he thought. Not yelling. Not threats. Just quiet control. After the wave passed and the tables were clearing, Carmen approached Marcus by the host stand, carrying the updated policy binder. It had notes in the margins now. Sticky tabs. Highlighter marks. She'd studied it cover to cover. "I've never run a full store before," she said softly. "Not like this." "You already have," Marcus said, locking eyes with her. "The difference now? You're doing it with the right support." She looked down at the binder, thumb tracing the edge. "You sure I'm the one?" "You didn't let this place fall apart," Marcus replied. "You held it together when no one else would. That's the person I want leading this team." Carmen swallowed hard, then nodded. No smile. Just quiet acceptance of the weight now resting on her shoulders. At 8:30, the corporate team returned. This time, not as shadows or spies. Just diners. They sat in the corner, ordered like everyone else, tipped heavily, and left without speaking to Marcus at all. That, he thought, is the kind of silence I want. Later, during cleanup, Eli slid into the booth across from Marcus again. No soda this time, just a bottle of water and that ever-present binder, pages now wrinkled and marked up from use. "They said I might shadow another manager next week," Eli said, casually. "You ready?" Marcus asked. "I think so." "You don't sound sure." "I'm not," Eli admitted. "But I'm not scared either." That was all Marcus needed to hear. They sat in silence for a moment as the rest of the team closed out around them. Lane counted the silverware. Dylan helped wipe down the line. Carmen finalized the drawer. The dishwasher sang softly to himself from the back as trays clinked into place. This was no longer survival. This was ownership. As the last light dimmed and the front doors locked behind them, Marcus turned to Eli at the threshold. "You still running to your shifts?" Eli smirked, shook his head. "Carmen fixed my schedule. I got a ride now." Marcus gave a soft nod, then looked toward the lot, where Eli's ride was already waiting. The boy turned to go. "Next week," Marcus called after him, "we go over vendor management and food cost control. Bring questions." Eli turned back with that same small, determined smile. "I will." Marcus watched him walk across the parking lot, that binder tucked under his arm like it meant everything. And maybe, finally, it did. The lights inside Maple and Oak Grill faded out behind him, but the fire, the one that had sparked in those dark corners of fatigue and injustice, was still burning. And now? Now it had direction. The next Friday evening arrived like a quiet drumroll, not the kind that signaled panic, but the kind that hinted at something solid, earned. From the outside, Maple and Oak Grill still looked like any other family restaurant in Ohio. The same flickering neon sign. The same strip mall neighbors. But inside, the heartbeat was different. The rhythm had changed. Marcus stood near the kitchen pass, not in uniform, not hiding. No clipboard this time. Just his eyes scanning the floor, watching what he'd built, what they'd built together, unfold in real time. There was no scramble. No glares. No fear in the air. Just quiet confidence. Lane floated through her section, now mentoring a third trainee. She adjusted his posture, showed him how to handle trays without tipping, and gave him a nod of approval when he got it right. She wasn't scared of messing up anymore. She wasn't scared of being yelled at. She was someone others were watching now. Dylan worked the line with a precision that made it look easy. When the fryer jammed for the second time that night, he didn't shout or panic. He just fixed it, wiped his hands, and got back to prep. A few weeks ago, he'd been ready to walk out. Now he was staying late voluntarily. And Carmen, fluent in both pressure and grace, balanced the entire operation from the host stand to the expo line. She redirected staff with just a glance, solved customer problems before they escalated, and kept everything stitched together. Marcus didn't need to say it aloud. Everyone knew who was in charge now. And everyone respected it. But perhaps the most remarkable sight that night was Eli. He entered through the front door, backpack over his shoulder, training binder clutched like a second skin. He walked with purpose. He wasn't just showing up for a shift. He was reporting to duty. He no longer blended into the floor as a kid trying to keep up. He stood out as someone people listened to. Marcus caught his eye as he passed. Eli paused, then raised the binder slightly like a salute. Marcus gave a short nod. That was their greeting now, quiet, professional, understood. Around 7:45, a commotion rippled near the door. A woman entered, flustered, holding a toddler in one hand and a takeout receipt in the other. Her order had been wrong, again. She'd called twice during the week and gotten nowhere. Eli stepped in before Carmen could. "I'm so sorry," he said, calm and composed. "Let's get that fixed now." He guided her to a seat, took the order back to the kitchen, and returned with a fresh meal and a complimentary dessert. The woman didn't argue. She didn't ask for anyone else. When she left, she smiled. Genuinely. Carmen watched from the host stand, impressed. "That kid," she murmured to Marcus. "He's going to run a store someday." Marcus didn't look away. "He already is." As closing time approached, the restaurant buzzed, not with stress, but with the tired satisfaction of a job well done. The team lingered longer than usual. They didn't rush out the door. They cleaned with music on low, joked quietly, shared leftover fries over the counter. Marcus called them together near the host stand, where months ago, the fear of job loss hung like smoke. Now, there was something sturdier in the air. Trust. I know the last few weeks haven't been easy, Marcus began, his voice steady. Some of you probably thought I came here to clean house. Maybe I did. But not in the way you feared. The room quieted. I came to listen. To watch. To figure out where I let this place slip. And I saw it. I saw people holding this building up with nothing but grit and sweat. People who were ignored, underpaid, overworked. He looked at each of them, eyes resting briefly on Lane, Dylan, Carmen, and finally Eli. I saw leadership. Real leadership. Not titles. Not pay grades. People doing right by each other, even when it hurt. A beat of silence. Starting next week, we launched the new leadership development track. 3 of you will be offered company-sponsored training, one-on-one mentorship, and advancement opportunities across the region. But more importantly, every one of you will have a voice. He turned slightly toward Carmen and handed her a folder. Carmen will be taking over full-time as general manager of this location. She's earned it every day I've been here. Carmen blinked, then nodded slowly. There was no applause, but there didn't need to be. The approval was unspoken. Absolute. Lane will be lead trainer, Marcus continued. And Dylan, you'll be taking over kitchen onboarding for all new cooks. Starting Monday. Marcus's eyes finally landed on Eli, who stood still, gripping his binder tightly. Eli, Marcus said, you'll be finishing your training track with me. But in 6 months, you'll be offered an assistant manager position. If you want it. Eli's eyes widened, then darted around the room. No one looked surprised. Only proud. I'll take it, he said, his voice clear and steady. The team slowly broke off after that, back to their stations, back to their routines. But something had changed in the air. They weren't just working for the grill anymore. They were part of it. As the last light clicked off, Marcus and Carmen locked the doors together. Outside, the parking lot glowed faintly beneath flickering street lamps. You think they're ready? Carmen asked. Marcus watched Eli cross the lot again, this time not sprinting, not carrying exhaustion, just that binder, and a quiet smile. I think they've been ready, he said. We just finally got out of their way. Some stories remind us that power doesn't come from titles. It comes from action. From seeing people others ignore. From standing up quietly when no one else will. As Marcus proved, leadership isn't about showing up in a suit. It's about showing up with your sleeves rolled up. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever worked somewhere like this? What would you have done? If you found this story powerful, make sure to subscribe for more true-to-life stories just like this one. Like, comment, and share if you believe in fairness, integrity, and second chances. Sometimes, the strongest leaders wear aprons, not ties.